Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
Roach, and I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are, people. And look at this. I'm holding a Rode, is that how you pronounce it? Mic for this one, because my actual microphone is working, but there's some technical issues, so I'm going to have to hold this Rode mic for this one. So it'll be very interesting to see how clear or unclear this comes across when you watch this. My name is Machel St. Patrick here, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And I'm recording this preview episode. It's going to be 20 minutes only, people. I guarantee this one's going to be 20 minutes only. I'm recording this preview episode approximately 12 hours before West Indies begin their win or go home match against Zimbabwe in Hobart early tomorrow morning, UK time. So for those who don't know your timings, the match will start at 9 a.m. UK time. That will mean 3 o'clock in the morning, Jamaica time, 4 o'clock Caribbean Eastern time, and so on and so forth for the people in America and Canada as well. People, there's no more to say about the Scotland match. We've said all that now. If you haven't watched our live call-in show that I did with lots of West Indian fans calling in, ringing in, giving their opinions and so on and so forth, after you've watched this, go back and watch that one. We fully dissected the Scotland defeat. I've got no more to say on that. We now need to look ahead, and the match tomorrow against Zimbabwe is must win. We can't be any clearer than that. Lose, we go home. We have to win. So the question is, how are we going to win? How are we going to win that match? And also probably the bigger question, who plays in that match? Do the West Indies make any changes ahead of this particular match against Zimbabwe? Or do we say to the 11 that lost against Scotland, you lot have to go again? You have to go again. That was your one bad match of the qualifying stage or the first round stage. We back you. We go again. Let's go get the win. Need I remind anyone, though, Zimbabwe licked down Ireland and won by 31 runs in their match later on that same day. Zimbabwe made 174 for 7. From their allotted 20 overs. Sikandar Raza, the star turn, needless to say, with 82 off 48 balls, a strike rate of 171. Ireland, in return, could only reach 143 for 9 from their allotted 20. Blessing Muzarabani took 3 for 23. In fact, all of their bowlers were good. Richard Nagarava went 2 for 22 off his 4. Tendai Chatara went for 2 for 22 as well. As I said, Muzarabani, went for 3 for 23. Sean Williams, 1 for 20 off his 3. Sikandar Raza himself, 1 for 22 off his 3. So interestingly enough, if we first and foremost look at the bowling, Zimbabwe bowled 6 overs of spin against Ireland. They'll definitely be bowling 6 overs, if not more, of spin against us. They would have seen how spin bogged us down in the middle overs against Scotland. Remember, people, at the power play stage of that Scotland match, we were ahead and we were comfortable. I think we were 55 for 1 at the end of the power play. So it cannot be put. We cannot find enough words, or I cannot find enough words to articulate how badly we did after over number 6. In that match against Scotland. We were actually well on course to winning that match, and we simply imploded. So you can bet your bottom dollar that Williams and Raza may well bowl their full allocation against us unless someone like a Pooran can take them down in the middle overs. Pooran is supposed to be good against spin. I know he's in a bad rut of form, but you have to look to players like Pooran to take on the spinners and bat them out of the attack. But that's in no way meant to take away from what their seamers did against Ireland. Obviously, the three seamers up front for Zimbabwe all bowled their full allocation, and they took 7 wickets between them. So let's not pretend like we can discount the Zimbabwean seam attack. That's also going to be a problem for us. So before I get into it, though, and before I look at, well, who should play, who shouldn't play, so on and so forth, I'm just going to play you a bit of Jason Holder's preview. I'm going to play a bit of Jason Holder's pre-match press conference where he kind of looked at what went wrong against Scotland and looked ahead to the match against Zimbabwe. So I'm just going to play you a minute or so of that.
Try to find solutions. We had a pretty good chat yesterday after the game, and I'm sure guys went into their rooms and reflected on the performance yesterday. And no doubt, I think we have what it takes to turn it around. And it's more or less, we just hitting the ground running against Zimbabwe and starting that game well and beating them.
The team struggled facing the two spinners yesterday as they took a combined 5 wickets and only letting 26 runs. Is that kind of a common theme we'll see throughout the tournament? You guys not playing so well against spin?
Well, I hope not. They too worried about our play against spin for us to just playing the situations a little bit better. Building a few more partnerships in that middle phase of the innings, and then setting it up nicely for our heavy hitters at the back.
Zimbabwe tomorrow, they had a good game last night. What are you kind of expecting from them?
I'm expecting the same thing that they had yesterday. They're a very good cricket team. We've played against them quite a bit in the recent past. And they've been more and more competitive, and they seem to be on a nice winning streak as well too. So we expect a highly competitive game. It'll probably be one of the toughest games that we're going to have here in this competition. I know that we know the magnitude of the game, so it's just more or less us going and performing and trying to get into the game and keeping the momentum as long as possible.
Thank you, and good luck for tomorrow, Jason.
Thank you.
Now I've put the mic on my jumper now. I don't know why I didn't think of that to begin with. Now, there were other questions that were put to Jason, but I think that kind of gives you a quick synopsis of some of the key things that were discussed from Jason with regards to the match and looking ahead. And Jason's effectively hit the nail on the head. We just have to bat better in the middle overs, reach over 15 and set it up for the power hitters we have at the back end, whether that be an Oldene Smith, for example. We've got to set the game up for those players to come in and do what they can do. Fundamentally, however you look at the match against Scotland, whether you think that we should play Sheldon Cottrell, for example, or not, the reality is the batters did not do their job. And if the batters don't do their job again tomorrow, we'll lose. It doesn't matter what we do with the ball. If the batters don't do their job, we will lose. So for me, the question mark really centers around who do we select to be in our top 6? Lots of you have messaged us. You were on that live call-in show yesterday saying, well, bring in Sheldon Cottrell because of what the threat that he offers with the new ball, take out another batter. And I hear that argument, and here's why I hear that argument. Let me bring this up on the screen. The reason why I hear that argument is fundamentally you should be trusting, and I said this in the preview show preview recording I did for the Scotland game, you should be trusting your top 5 batters to get the job done 9 times out of 10. The problem for West Indies right now is, can we trust any of them? But think of the top 5. I'm going to say it again. Let's say they go in with this top 5. Mayers, Lewis, King, Pooran, Powell, right? 5 batters there. Do you mean to tell me that those 5 batters can't be trusted to do the majority of the heavy lifting in any innings they're batting in? I'll say it again. Mayers, Lewis, King. So King would play what I call the updated 2022 version of an anchor role, right? King, Lewis. That's what I'm saying. Mayers, Lewis, King, Pooran, Powell. Now, the question is, if you think that 5 is stable enough, all you then do is you promote everybody 1 up. So Jason Holder got 38 or 33 against Scotland. Does Jason Holder need to be coming in at number 7, or can someone like a Jason Holder be trusted to come in at number 6? I think he can. I'm not sure why we have someone as good with the bat as Jason coming in at number 7. So you have Jason coming at 6, Oldene coming at 7, Akil coming at 8, Alzari coming at 9. We should never be in a position anyways where we're having to rely on a combination of Jason, Oldene, Akil and Alzari to rescue any batting for us. Anything that Jason to Alzari pull off should be a bonus innings. There should be, if we're going into any match, any innings against any team, going, well, boy, Jason and Oldine and Akil and Alzari are going to have to save us. Well, we deserve to lose because the top order haven't done the top order in the engine room haven't done their job anyway. If Shamar Brooks plays again tomorrow, and I call out Brooks because I think he would be the one most likely to hold a drop if Sheldon Cottrell comes in. If Brooks holds a drop tomorrow, the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is Brooks in the team to do? And I said this when the Kill came on the live call-in show last night, or sorry, the one that we did on Monday. I said this in the Kill. If Brooks is in your team, he has to come in number 3 or number 4. From the minute, so Pooran came in ahead of him against Scotland. From the minute Pooran's coming in ahead of Brooks, why is Brooks in the team then? You can't have Brooks batting at 5 or lower, with respect, and I say that with full respect to what he did in the back end of CPL. But the reality is Brooks is there to come in early. And if you have a batting lineup and Brooks isn't coming in early, you've basically wasted a space. So I fully understand anybody who is saying sacrifice a batter for Sheldon Cottrell's ability to get early swing and early movement in the power play, because, as someone like Medvis said on the call-in show, the benefit that Sheldon brings in the power play outweighs what somebody may or may not do with the bat. If you get Sheldon striking twice in the power play, as he's wont to do, it immediately puts the other side on the back foot. Remember what we always say: you lose 3 wickets in the power play, you've probably lost the match more times than not. So do we sacrifice a batter for Sheldon? And that's the only change I'm really willing to entertain. I know some of you have messaged us or spoken about, what about Raymond Reefer? Maybe we should bring him in. Sorry, for who? What? So that if Raymond Reefer came in, that's just a like-for-like replacement for Brooks, right? And then you must be bringing in Reefer in because you might say, what can Reefer can offer us bits and pieces with the ball as well in case we need to turn to someone. But you wouldn't be bringing Raymond Reefer in just as to add any batting to the side, because you've already stacked the side with bats. So I don't see why you'd bring Raymond Reefer in. Yannick Harai is not going to get a look in because the pitch doesn't favour leg spin. It's not the whole Hobart is not a venue to play a leg spinner. You didn't see it against Scotland. You didn't see it in the Zimbabwe Island game. So Yannick's not getting a look in. So the only other player you then discuss, if we're not talking about Sheldon, is Johnson Charles. And again, some of you have said to me, well, just drop Evan Lewis and bring in Johnson Charles. I just don't see that happening. I don't see it happening. And the reason I don't see it happening is because if you've started the tournament with Evan Lewis, why would you drop him after 1 game? And this is why I feel, and this is why I'm saying it would not surprise me if we go into tomorrow's game with the exact same 11 and effectively say to them, you got us in this mess. You go and get us out of this same mess. That's what you tend to see in sports. You don't tend to see knee-jerk reactions 1 game into a World Cup. Only if injuries really play a role would you see that. But like I say, there is some scope, and I think the argument is strong for Sheldon Cottrell's inclusion, at the expense of a batter. I can understand where the reasoning and logic comes in for a move like that, but I just don't know if West Indies will be brave enough to do that, having lost the game. I don't know if they'll be willing to roll the dice. The argument says, well, boy, it's a must-win game. Roll the dice because we've done seen what the first choice 11 already did, and it was a madness. So roll the dice because all bets are off in a must-win game. I hear that. Let's see what happens. In terms of tactical, what do I want to see tomorrow? Well, it depends on how you view the game Monday. Well, it was yesterday, sorry, as I'm recording this. Do you think the West Indies bowled badly in the game on Monday? Yeah, up front they did. In the power play, yeah, they were rubbish. What did Scotland got to 50-odd for? Was it 50-odd? Was it 50-odd for 2 or... Yeah, 50-odd for 1. Sorry, at the rain break, Scotland got to something like that at the rain break. And we didn't bowl well up until the rain break. After the rain break, over 7 to... I'd say Over 7 to 19, all the way up to Oldeen's last over. Oldeen kind of bowled a loose one in the 20th over, which gave up 15 runs. I've heard some people, I was one of them, I was like, why did we give Oldeen the last over? But those 15 runs didn't matter because we only made 118 anyway. Even if Oldeen doesn't give up those 15 runs and we're only chasing something like 150, we still would have lost. Okay, so yes, there's question marks over why did Oldeen Smith get the last over when you had Jason Holder only bowling 3, Obed McCoy only bowling 3. It's an interesting move to give Oldeen the last over in that regard. But generally speaking, 160 on that track was a gettable total. If you study the totals at that ground, nobody's supposed to defend 160 on that ground. That shows you how bad the West Indies batting performance was. Pooran said in the post-match press conference that was a batting track. We were comfortable up onto the power play. We were looking in no trouble whatsoever. Who here who's watching this genuinely, when they watched the first 6 overs, thought West Indies are going to lose this? No one did, because that's how comfortable we were looking. Yes, Mayers had got out to a dunce shot, having hit a 4 and a 6, but we were comfortable with Lewis and King at the crease. Once one wicket fell, the rest started tumbling. As usual, these batters failed to show any kind of match awareness, any kind of adaptation to the match situation, any kind of grit, which said, dig in and we'll make it up at the back end. Just showed nothing. We showed no cricketing sense apart from Jason Holder. Jason compiled a well-constructed 38 of 33. He batted to the situation, probably because he's one of the more experienced international players in the side. Probably not a coincidence, right? He batted to the situation. The rest of them just batted like a set of dunces, really and truly. So hopefully Phil has sat them down. Rod Yeswick has sat them down. Monty Desai has sat them down. Rayon Griffiths has sat them. I hope everybody who's involved backstage or back in the back room with that team has sat them down and said, get your head switched into the game. You've seen what happens if we drop our levels by even 1%. West Indies have to basically play tomorrow's match against Zimbabwe as if it's their World Cup final. That's the situation these players have put us in, and that's the situation they're going to have to get us out of. And if we lose, well, boy, if we lose, well, the cuss out's going to come. And to be fair, the cuss out will deserve to come. Everybody will get it if we lose tomorrow. And that, I don't mean that to be like anybody's a bad man to cuss out the side, but the reality is they've put us in this situation. Whilst I was one of the few who seemingly realized that it was going to be very hard for us to get out of this group and thought we'd, like I said, it's on record, I said I thought we'd lose at least one game, and I said we'd struggle to get out. Nobody would have expected that into our second game in the World Cup, we're already at risk of getting knocked out of the competition. So part of me says, boy, maybe that's what needs to happen. But at the end of the day, I'm a West Indian fan. At the end of the day, I rally. I want us to win. I want us to do well. And I guess let me now cast my hat on a particular mast here. What would I do for tomorrow? My head says pick the same 11 and tell them to go out there and get the job done. My heart says play the extra bowler in Sheldon Cottrell, drop a batter, tell the top 5, you are in this team to get the job done. Get it done. That's why you are batters, and the bowlers will do what they can do because they've already shown us that they know that they can restrict a side to 160 or lower. So we shouldn't have to be worried about the bowlers. You include the extra bowler in Sheldon, you give us that extra firepower in the power play, which potentially means that if we're batting first, we might be able to restrict Zimbabwe. If we're batting second, we might have restricted Zimbabwe with the total they have to chase. Bowlers win you matches at the end of the day, some say batters do. But if your bowlers restrict the opposition, as look at the Netherlands, for example, the Netherlands bowlers have won them their first 2 games effectively against UAE and Namibia. It's not the batters. The bowlers restricted those 2 sides and put the Netherlands in a position where it was easier for them to win the matches. The West Indian bowlers technically restricted Scotland to 160. That should have been a comfortable chase, but our batters let us down. So you lot decide. Let me know in the comments, what would you do in terms of the selection for the Zimbabwe game? Would you stick or would you twist? But as always, as we always say, rally around the West Indies, people. We won't be doing a watch along tomorrow because when the match starts UK time, I'll already be in work. But as usual, head over to our Twitter account. I didn't even put anything up. 1 second, people. If you're new to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, head over to our Twitter account at Carib Cricket on Twitter and Instagram. Remember to like, share, subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We're on the road to 4K YouTube subscribers. And if you want to become a patron of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you can head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket for as little as £2, $2, £2, to whatever your currency is to support what we do on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Rally tomorrow, people, and we'll be there live after the game or later in the evening tomorrow to deconstruct what took place. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.